How many of you have seen a Hallmark movie this week? Just confess. All right. Men, cash in your man card. Raise your hand if you've seen a Hallmark. I've seen 2. Okay, 2. There we go. All right. Hallmark movies, there's about 1,000 of them, Christmas movies, and let's face it, they all end the same way. Spoiler alert, if you've never seen a Hallmark Christmas movie, they all end with a guy and girl kissing in a snowstorm. That's it. And I'm just letting you know up front. But we all know that, right? We all know that Hallmark movies are that way, and that's why we watch them. We want to watch something that we know the ending is. We know that all is going to be well. But the thing about the Christmas message, the true Christmas message, is the admission that all is not well. We recognize that there are things wrong in the world. This world, in short, is a mess. It's just a mess. And Christ has come into this world, and He's talked to us, and He's been with us. And the Bible gives different images of Jesus. And one of the images that it gives is that Jesus is light. In fact, get your Bibles out, would you please, and turn to Isaiah. It's in the Old Testament. Isaiah chapter 9. And this prophet named Isaiah, he's prophesying about the coming of Jesus centuries before Jesus even comes on the scene. And he says in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 2, "The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them a light has shined." Now, if you've never read the Bible before, you're not going to say, "Oh, that's Jesus." But you're wondering, okay, all right, people are walking in darkness, and all of a sudden they see a great light, which is exactly what you want when you're walking in darkness. You want to see light. If you've ever been on a trail in the mountains, or if you've ever been in a hallway that you're not familiar with, you need to have a light. And Isaiah is saying, these people that I'm talking about, they're walking in darkness, and boom, they see a great light. In fact, the word dawn there is the English equivalent to flash. A flash, it just comes on. No, there's no dimmer switch. It just comes on. But then when you flip over to the New Testament, we get a little bit more clarity as to what the light is. And in fact, it's not really a what, it's a who. Look over at the Gospel of John. This is one of Jesus' closest disciples. And John makes this observation about the light. Verse 9, "The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He," this light is now a he, it's a who. "He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him." One of the first signs of Christmas, right, are lights. What was the earliest? Just for fun, just shout out. When was the earliest that you saw signs of Christmas? Just shout it out. Halloween, okay. Someone, when is Joseph maybe? I don't know, but okay. Other. When? August? Oh my goodness. Must live in the North Pole or something. Anyone else? Yeah, August, September. I mean, we're seeing signs of Christmas. And typically, the first sign of Christmas is light. You see lights. It could be lights saying blue light special kind of thing, but there are lights. And that's not by accident. Light is a wonderful symbol at Christmas time. Part of it is for decorative reasons. It's the darkest time of year. It's the time of year when the earth is furthest from the sun, and so there's more darkness, and so you want to have light. So there's a decorative reason for the light, but there's also a symbolic reason for the light, and that is the fact that this world is a dark place. This world is a mess, and the Word of God comes to us and says this. Now, when you think about darkness in the Bible, you think of one of two things, or maybe even both things. The first is evil. When the Bible speaks of darkness, it refers to evil. There's evil in the world. You may remember from last year, if you were here, we did the same song that Brian and Tanya did, and Beth Whitney found different images from 2015 to put up there, and they were similar images to what you saw in 2016. And we decided on purpose to do it again, simply to say, things haven't changed. This world is still a mess. Your candidate might be in or your candidate might be out. It's irrelevant. This world is a mess. And what you saw in those images are manifestations of evil. You see, it's really easy to think about evil out there from a global perspective, but what about evil in here at a local perspective? The other thing that darkness means is not just evil, it also means ignorance. It means that there are people in this world, myself included, outside of Jesus, who are saying, I have the solution to the problem of the mess. I have the light for the darkness. If you remember back to some of the images you saw in the visuals, every one of those slides, every one of them, there's a story in there somewhere of some person, maybe a person of power, who was convinced that they had the solution to the problem. They understood what the problem was, and they had the solution for it, and all it did was cause more mess. In fact, get back to Isaiah chapter 8, would you? Isaiah chapter 8, which is just right before chapter 9. Thank you, Pastor Obvious. Okay. Chapter 8 of Isaiah, and here Isaiah gives the reason why the people are walking in darkness. Why the people are walking away from God, why they're walking in evil and ignorance. Look at what he says, verse 19, for example, in Isaiah 8. And when they say to you, inquire of the mediums and the necromancers, a necromancer is someone who says that they can communicate with dead people. Okay? And when they say to you, inquire the mediums and the necromancers who chirp and mutter, should not a people inquire of their God? Should they inquire of the dead on behalf of the living, to the teaching and to the testimony? If they will not speak according to this word, it is because they have no dawn. In other words, these people, they're looking for solutions in the mystical, in the spiritual, but they're not looking to God, and as a result, there is no dawn, there is no light, there's no hope. Verse 21, they will pass through the land greatly distressed and hungry, and they will look to the earth, but behold distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish, and they will be thrust into thick darkness. It's in that context that Isaiah writes, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Why are they walking in darkness? They're walking in darkness because they're convinced that they can solve it themselves. They're walking in darkness because they're convinced that if we just find the inner child, find the inner person, find self-esteem, find the good in everyone, if we could just do that, then we will solve the problem. And all Isaiah is saying is the more people look to humanity, the more people look to earth, the darkness and the mess thickens. What the people need is not the light inside. What the people need is not the light in the earth. What the people need is the light from somewhere else. But once again, it's really easy to think out there, like the images that you saw on the screen. They're all out there. Very few of them are local. We could have found images that are local. It's very easy to say, yeah, boy, this world is a mess. How about you? How about me? The reality is, the reason why the world is a mess is because we're all faithful contributors to it. Turn to the person on your left and say, you're a mess. And then if you heard that, turn back and say, you're a bigger mess. We're all, okay, calm down, okay? Some wife just leaned over to her husband and said, I'm still mad. You know. The reality is we're all a mess. I mean, we could have our Sunday bests on and we can have our smiles on and enjoy the light of Christmas and the holiday. And the reality is we are all dealing with our own darkness, with our own mess. Jesus is the light. I'll tell you this, if you're not a Christian, we want to welcome you here. We are so honored that you would take time out of your holiday to be with us for an hour or so. And as Christians, we claim many truth claims. We make many truth claims about the Bible, about God, but at the core of our belief system, at the core of everything is this foundational truth that we embrace. The world is a mess. The world is a dark place, and so is my soul, and so is yours. And every time I or you attempt to solve your own problems your own way is just a revelation of that darkness, the ignorance that we have to actually think that I can solve my own problems. The reality is I can't. I need light. I need a light to go on in my life so that I can see the mess for what it is. And the Bible says, and we believe, that Jesus Christ is that light. And please notice I didn't say Jesus' teachings is the light. The unique thing about the Christian gospel is this: Jesus makes claims about himself that if anyone else did, we would shut them away in some kind of an asylum someplace. We would relegate them to the village idiot, and we would never pay any attention to them. The kind of claims that Jesus made, no other religious founder made. Moses never said he's the light. Muhammad never said he's the light. Buddha, Confucius never said they're the light. Jesus is saying, I am the light. I'm not just bringing it, I'm it. I'm the light. You draw near to me, and I will shine on you. Now here's the thing. Jesus made those kinds of claims in his earthly ministry, and people hated him for it. They hated him. Why? Well, could it be because it was kind of arrogant to say that he's the light? Well, maybe. But I think the real reason why people hated Jesus is because there was a time in my life where I hated him too. And the reason is because he was shining light on things that I really wanted the darkness to hide. I really wanted sins in my own life to remain private. I didn't want anyone, including him, to see them, and I didn't want to see them for what they were. And when Jesus came into my life, he came as a light, and all of a sudden, these things in my soul that I had worked very, very hard to hide, boom, the light goes on. Parents, and kids, you're in here too. Parents, how many of you are raising your sons and daughters to keep their room clean? Raise your hand. One parent. Great. Okay? That's the problem with America. Okay? No, I think probably most of us, we are trying to model and trying to teach our children to keep their rooms clean. Our son was that way as well. We worked very, very hard to make sure that Scott would keep his room clean. When we lived up north, we would have to walk down a hallway, and his bedroom would be on our right, and we'd walk past his to go to our own. And Scott learned at a very early age, because both his mom and me were really about keeping the room clean, maybe mom, but not, And so we worked very hard at doing that, but he learned the trick is as we walk by in the hallway, and we never allowed him to close the door, but keep the light off. Keep the light off, and then that way we won't see the mess. But you flip the light on, there's underwear stuck to the wall, there are socks standing upright, there's a wet bath towel on the carpet, there's clothes from last July on the floor, and his bed is disheveled, and it's just a mess. And what revealed the mess was the light. And my encouragement to you is it could be that you're not a Christian, or maybe you've been a Christian for a long time, but your life has some mess in it that you've tried to keep hidden. And all of a sudden, the light of Christ has come on in your life, and now you are seeing what he sees. The title for this series this month is, Do You See What I See? And the person asking that question is not you or me, it's God to us. And God may be asking you the question right now, do you see what I see? I'm light. I just flicked the light on. It's flashing. It's dawning. And now I see the mess. I've always seen the mess. Do you? And what can happen so often is it repels us away because we work very, very hard to hide the mess. And when the light comes on, all of a sudden we see it for what it is. And the neat thing about Isaiah is that he identifies the light, and he says some things about this light. For example, look at chapter 9, verse 6. This is a very familiar passage. You see it in Christmas cards. You hear songs about it. Isaiah 9:6, for to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. This is who Jesus is. Isaiah is identifying this child that is born, who is light. And this child who is born and is light has several names. Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. For all of us here, whether you're a Christian or not, can you take just a few moments and think about Jesus? Just think about him. Isaiah wants us to. Think about this. This child that is born to us who is light is called, what's he called? He's called Mighty God, Everlasting Father. If Jesus Christ is Mighty God, Everlasting Father, you know what that means? That means it's not enough to like him. It's not enough to admire him. It's not enough to hear his teaching from the Gospels and say, wow, that's very inspiring. He really wants me to become a better me. No, if this child that is born is a light that has flashed, a light that has dawned on people walking in darkness, and his names are Mighty God, Everlasting Father. This is someone that does not require your respect. This is someone who has the right to demand your worship. But he has other names, doesn't he? He has other names. One is Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace. He's Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace. Yes, this mighty God, this everlasting Father demands worship, but he's also called Wonderful. Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace, meaning that this is someone that has entered into our mess. He is a child who is a light, who has been born into this world, and he has come into our mess. He's come into your mess. That's another thing that totally sets the Christian gospel apart from every other religious truth claim, is that the God that we worship is not some God who manages to stay detached from all of the evil, all of the darkness, and just resides over us and judges us. We worship a God who came into the mess, who subjugated himself to the mess and entered into the mess. He entered in with us. And Isaiah is saying, this person is wonderful. Prince of Peace. One of my favorite authors is British author. She's passed away, but it's Dorothy Sayers. And this is what she wrote. God in the flesh means that for whatever reason God chose to let us fall, to suffer, to be subject to sorrows and death. He has nonetheless had the honesty and the courage to take his own medicine. He can exact nothing from man that he has not exacted from himself. He himself has gone through the whole of human experience, from the trivial irritations of family life and the cramping restrictions of hard work and lack of money, to the worst horrors of pain and humiliation, defeat, despair, and death. He was born in poverty and suffered infinite pain, all for us, and thought it well worth his while. Are you thinking about Jesus? Are you thinking about this light, this child that has been born into the world, who is Almighty God, everlasting Father, who demands our worship and has the right to do so, but is also this wonderful counselor who has come in to our mess, and he has shown light on the darkness. And man, we repel against that because we just don't want the mess revealed. But then notice what Isaiah says in verse 6. The very first part, for to us a child is born. And it's not enough for him to say, for us a child is born. He could just report that and we wouldn't even bat an eye. Yeah, a child's been born. But then he says this, to us a son is given. This child, this light, has been given to us. This child, this light, this everlasting Father, this mighty God, this wonderful Counselor, this Prince of Peace has been given to us. It's a gift that God has given. But you know what? When it comes to gifts, some gifts are hard to accept, aren't they? Most of the time, especially at Christmas time, we give gifts, and the gifts say, I love you. Or they say, I really like being your friend. Or I really appreciate you. That's typically what a gift says, but sometimes the gifts that we receive say other things, and it makes them hard to accept. For example, you might be wondering what's in here. We've hidden one of our toddlers, and he's going to pop out. No, just kidding. Hope there's air holes. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, all kinds of cool stuff. What would happen if on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, you open a box like this, and it's from a loved one. It's from someone who knows you very, very well and loves you a lot. And you get this gigantic book. Gigantic book, and you think, oh great, this must have cost a lot of money. This is a gigantic book. And then you look at the title, and the title is Overcoming Selfishness. And Beth had to make her little, she made up Mitzoff, the author. See, no one in the first service got either, except Debbie and Beth. They're the only ones that got it. But can you, what if you got this as a gift? Overcoming selfishness. Would you go, oh great, I've always wanted this? No, it would be a very difficult gift to receive, because obviously this is revealing what your friend thinks of you. You need some work. You need to overcome your selfishness. That would be a hard gift to receive, wouldn't it? Or how about this one? You open up another box, and this comes out. Yep. It's a thigh master. It's for you to master your thighs, apparently. It took us a long time to find this bad boy, let me tell you. All right? This is a thigh master. And so what would happen if you open up and some loved one has given you this on the same, right after you open up the book Overcoming Selfishness, you open up this, and obviously you now know what these two people think of you. You're fat and obnoxious. These would be gifts that are hard to accept, wouldn't they? Because they reveal things about us that we don't want to know. I never want to hear that I'm selfish, and I never want to hear that I'm overweight, especially from people that I know and love. That might be you this morning when you think about Jesus. When you think about the mess that he has revealed in your life, it would be very, very easy for you to be repelled by that and not accept the gift. can you just do that? Can you just, if Jesus has revealed the mess in your life, do not run from him. See that as a gift, because he is the light. And this light is not someone who stands detached like a flashlight and shines on your sin and says, looky there, you've got to change that. Look at that. That's a mess. Clean up your soul. Clean up your life. Because he knows the reality. He's the creator, that the more you and I try to clean up our mess, the thicker the darkness gets and the bigger the mess gets, right? That may be why you're here today, is because your life is a mess and you've tried everything. You've tried 12 steps. Oh my goodness, you've tried 13 steps. You've tried everything. And it seems that the mess just gets bigger and the darkness gets thicker. The good news for you is that Jesus is the light who has also come into your mess. He's come into your mess. And he has gone and he has embraced the darkness, and he's taken on the darkness one-on-one. And the ultimate darkness that he took was death itself. He took on your sin on the cross. He paid for your sin on that cross. He died, and he went where every one of us will go, to death. And he went one-on-one with death, and he beat it. By his light, death is dead. And so if you have these messy thoughts resurrecting this morning, don't think for one moment, well, this is just another church service where I feel guilty. No, this is the moment when you can be able to embrace the light. You can be able to embrace this Jesus. This is a gift that all you need to receive this gift is need. It's all you need. You see, on Christmas Eve, on Christmas morning, you're going to get some gifts. And there will be packages maybe like this one that's going to be with your name on it. And so how are you going to get from here to there to receive whatever is in that package? You've got to go to that and put out your hand somehow and receive the gift. Otherwise, you'll never be able to do that. Receiving the gift is simply believing by faith that Jesus Christ is who he says he is. That Jesus Christ is the light, and that light has dawned. And yes, that light has revealed evil and ignorance and a mess. And he has said, I've come to reveal your mess, not so that you clean it up. I have come to reveal the mess because I want you to know I've cleaned it up. That mess, that sin that you've kept dark for so many days, weeks, or years, that sin that is yours, yeah, I'm just shining light on that because I want you to know I see it and you see it, and I've paid for that. It no longer has power over you. It no longer has its claws into you. It no longer controls you like it once did because I paid for that. It's legally, it's done. It's over. That's the beauty of Christmas. Allow God to deal with the mess. You've been dealing with it long enough. Allow him to deal with it for you. He has promised he would. Receive that gift and believe in the light, this child that's been given to us, this Jesus.
Thanks for listening to the Arcade Church podcast. Visit us at arcadechurchonline.com, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.